Hello and welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days. And we are looking at the week of Monday, July 14th to Sunday, July 20th. Seems like the year is going so fast. Welcome. If you're new here, welcome back. If you've been here before, really appreciate you. And I'll talk a little bit about the astrology, what's happening with the planets this week, and then our 7 cards, of course, and I'm using the Wild Unknown deck today. And then we'll end, as usual, with an oracle card from the Tree Keeper's Oracle. So, as always, building your own intuition, listening for what resonates with you and what doesn't, just letting that go, because it is a reading for the collective. And in terms of the astrology, we begin our week with the moon in Pisces, nice, loving, very kind, potentially spacey Pisces, very creative energy, part of the soup that holds us all together. And then we'll move into Aries, of course, the first sign of the zodiac, the initiator, the fire. Pisces is water, Aries is fire, likes to be first, a warrior. And then we'll go to Taurus, the earthy sign, likes beauty, pleasure, very sensual, and grounded. And then we'll end the week with the moon in Gemini, and we recently had Uranus enter Gemini as well, so that will make a connection. The moon moves very quickly, changing signs every 2.5 days or so. But Gemini is air, it's the mind, it's travel, communication, things like that. So, we're now in the waning moon. We had this past week that full moon in Capricorn. And we also have Saturn retrograde at this point. And it is, it moved there on the 13th, the day before we're starting this week. And it's about, I don't remember how many minutes, but 1 degree Aries. So it hadn't gotten very far into Aries before it started to retrograde. It will go back into Pisces and then eventually move back before too long into Aries and be there for about a year or two. So while it's retrograde, it's a good time for us to see what the truth is. I mean, that Aries, again, is initiatory. It is warrior-like, and Saturn brings a lot of discipline to that. So, when the planets go retrograde too, it's a good time for review. So things may come to light that we've been wondering about. Otherwise, for this week, we have Mercury retrograding as well, and that will be in the sign of Leo, and that starts on Thursday. I think it's Thursday morning. With this one being in Leo, again, we're reviewing, rethinking, so that could have an influence on us rethinking our romantic relationships, because it's Leo, our creativity, revisiting projects, creative projects, our attitudes about children. Those are all things that are ruled by Mercury. Now, it's the usual stuff about transportation and communication, electronics, watching your plans, double checking things, and probably at this point Mercury retrograde affects you very much at all. It doesn't seem to hit me too hard. I feel lucky that way, but I have some Gemini friends it hits pretty hard, because of course it rules Gemini, so just be aware. And then Friday on the 18th we have Mercury sextile Venus, and that's always a really good communication flow. So it's a great day to relax, to enjoy life, beauty, culture, maybe go on a nice date, have nice feelings, respect for people, consideration. Yeah, it should just be a pretty good vibes kind of day. All right. Well, the cards are really, really interesting this week. I don't think I've ever seen in my goodness, 30 some years of tarot reading that all four of the queens are up. Now, in this deck, they're called mothers, but same thing. So you've got the cups, the swords, the wands, and the pentacles. So an extremely feminine week in that regard. Now, they are varying in the element, and I'll talk about that when we get there, but it's like, wow, what a lot of feminine energy. We do have some swords, so that will balance that out somewhat as well, but that's the big energy here. So we begin the week with the swords, so the air energy, the mental energy. This one happens to be the 4. So here you have a little lamb, and it's like its third eye chakra is glowing here. It tends to be a fairly peaceful, restful kind of card. Take a break, meditate, slow down, try to quiet the mind. It is connected to the Emperor because it's a 4, so that there is power in that. There is grounding energy available by doing that. So that's our Monday. Again, moon will be in Pisces, so good day to ground. The Pisces can bring some peace, but it's not the most grounded sign, so kind of getting level and connecting can help. Tuesday, we start with the mothers or the queens, and our first one is with cups. So that's going to be water. Some people call this the water fairy, psychic, intuitive, emotional. The dark side of it can be a little smothering in the mothering. But it's lovely and open and kind and just intuitively knows the right thing to do. So this could be opening your heart towards someone, towards yourself, or encountering a person like this. Doesn't have to be gender, female gender, but a strong feminine presence. So that's Tuesday. We keep with the mothers or the queens on Wednesday, and now we're moving back to that sword or air element. So again, mental energies. This queen always makes me think of Athena. Of course, an owl was a part of her animal energy, her totem. And, it's the far seeing, it's the quiet. It can be very strong verbally with words or written words, spoken words, written words, poetry, speeches, thinking in general, very insightful and eloquent. So again, it could be a person, could be yourself, not gender oriented, but energy oriented toward a strong feminine that has some masculine side because of that sword mental energy. Very discerning and wise. We have one major for this week, and that occurs on Thursday, and that is justice. So justice is the number 8. Some decks will have this as strength. Some go the other way. There's some differences between the 8 and the 11s, but here this one is definitely justice, and you see that sword of justice, and we have a couple of cats here, one white and one black, so there's a balance in that. Then all of this rainbow energy, so there's a way that there is illumination. To me it almost seems like a precursor to the this is the justice card, but to the judgment card that comes later in the deck, number 20. There's an echo here. So where are we looking for justice? It could be personally, bestowing justice on someone, wanting it for the self, wanting it for the collective, and to me that feels like a very strong energy right right now. We've got some crazy and vicious stuff going on in the world. We certainly do in the United States. We now have concentration camps. Just really some unbelievable stuff. So I certainly would like to see some justice for people in general. I mean, we're in this phase of Pluto and Aquarius. And I heard one person say, one channeler, and I thought this was so important and insightful. I would love, and I did, think about that as, all right, power to the people, and I still do, but this particular channeler pointed out that it means that we will now have the fight for the power to the people. And I thought, oh my goodness, hadn't thought of it like that, but now I certainly do. And that seems to be where we are. So hopefully there's some justice for humanity. That again was Thursday. On Friday, another of those mothers are queens, and this time we have the wands. So there is a quality with the mothers of the queens of reflection, stopping for a moment, and looking back on what life has been lived. What have I done with my firepower? Have I kept my powder dry when I needed to? Have I wasted it on situations where I really had no power, no control? Or have I been more discerning about this? So this can be a very passionate, very creative kind of energy, and very opinionated as well. It can be funny. So, you know, all of them have a certain sort of eloquence. Now, we get obviously the Queen of Pentacles. She's coming up for our next day. She's not so verbal, but the other ones are pretty verbal. So again, a strong, feminine, fiery, instinctive kind of energy coming out on that Friday. So again, could be a person, could just be that energy, could be an energy within the self. By Friday, that fourth mother. And again, this is highly unusual, and I shuffled really well. I've had these cards for years, so it's not like, you know, they were used in some way where I had all the queens out. No, this just happened randomly. So this one is the Earth one, the Pentacles one, the slower moving one, and I think in some ways the most reflective. And I would say that there's a physicality to it. Here, of course, we have the doe and her fawn curled up next to her, the pentacle hanging over her head, a very peaceful face, a kind of mother energy to that, of course, and a groundedness, and hopefully a satisfaction. You know, obviously there are going to be mistakes in life. Obviously we do things that we wish we hadn't. Did the best we could at the time, most likely. But this is a good moment to reflect, look back at that, and find, you know, the comfort and the satisfaction where we can, and know that we did do our best, given what we knew at the time. Things might be different, you know, in retrospect. And then finally on Sunday, we are back to where we began in a way with the sword energy. So that's what we have the most of this week. So that's why I was saying there's kind of a balancing from all that feminine energy with some masculine energy, 3 swords for the week. So here we're at the 2. And the 2 does very frequently in the various decks show 2 swords. Sometimes someone's holding them, sometimes not, like in this case. And I love the way that this crossed, and you have a sunflower, which, you know, of course is standing in for the sun. So, but yet, you know, there's this darkness, this richness, this seed that is so beneficial at the heart of this. So it's trying to make a judgment that is fair and balanced and comes from an interior place, not just the external, but what is internal about this. Like frequently, if you do see a picture of a person on the 2 of Swords, that person will be blindfolded. There's an echo again of that kind of Lady Justice. So getting balanced, it's going to be connected to the high priestess because it's a 2. So again, coming from an internal place to make a good decision about something. All right, so those are our cards for the week, and then we will end with our Tree Keeper's Oracle card, and we got the Keeper of Comfort, and that's a 4 as well. And remember, our week started with a 4, we ended with a 2, which of course is a half of that. So I feel like there is something that we need to pay attention to with the 4s and the 2s here, these even numbers this week. So, Keeper of Comfort, seek the comfort of a shade tree. If you're in the northern hemisphere and it's summer, it's been a hot one, so that sounds very appealing right now. So seek the comfort of a shade tree, the companionship of an animal, the soothing of a favorite blanket, fragrance, flower, or book. Remember that aromatherapy. This is a time for snuggling, snuggle up to the earth, to the kindness of nature, to the generosity of story. But snuggle regardless. The tree keepers knew that our society, the tree keepers knew what our society has forgotten, the value of self-soothing. And I don't know why we don't teach that in a more conscious way. I think some families do, some don't. But how do we soothe in a healthy way? So I just love this, the value of self-soothing. Many of our illnesses are caused by stress that could be alleviated with proper self-care and the comfort of a regulated nervous system. Instead of using other people and picking fights and things like that, there are really good, healthy ways that we can do that. And YouTube's a great place to find some of those. Playing with the tarot can be that. Learning to meditate, journaling, all good self-care methods, regulation of your emotions. So be the one who remembers. Honor the old ways and be kind to yourself right now. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Be kind to yourself. I think I mentioned recently, put joy into the bank. It may feel selfish when there's suffering going on, but I think it's the opposite, that somehow benefits us all. That's back to that Pisces, the collective unconscious. We can help each other by cultivating our own self-love and kindness and care for others. So wishing you the best possible week, beloveds. I will see you again in 7 days. And please like, share, subscribe, reach out if I can help you, or if you have questions that you think I might be able to help you with. See you then.